Hello, everybody, and welcome to Women of Motion. I'm your host, Sheena Katz, and I'm really excited for tonight's conversation. This series is about women who move through life with intention. They're growing, they're evolving, and they're stepping into their purpose and their leadership. Today, we have two exciting guests. First, we have Debbie Perata, council member of the City of Ontario. And then we also have Gabrielle Conrow, director and consultant, advancing trauma-informed child welfare practices. Ladies, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to be here.
Well, let's get started. So as I mentioned, this series is all about women who are growing, evolving, and stepping into their leadership and their purpose. So looking back at your own journeys, what comes to mind when you hear that? Debbie, why don't we start with you?
For me, I always thought that leadership was somebody like a teacher or a principal or somebody that owned a company. I thought they had all the answers. And as I grew through my life and being a registered nurse for 37 years and now a council person for 17 years, it's really not about that. It's really about going through life and learning to listen, learning how to bring people together, and learning how to solve problems. And so now that I know better, those are the kinds of actions that I always try to take.
Absolutely. And Gabrielle, what about you?
Yeah, when I think about leadership, what comes to mind earlier on, my younger years, I thought a leader was always driven by your title. So if you have like a nice fancy title, then that must mean that, you're a leader. But it really has nothing to do with title and have everything to do with heart. It has everything to do with compassion. And when I think of leader, I think of someone that is paying it forward and someone that is not selfish and put the needs of others before their own.
Absolutely. And speaking of leadership usually requires stepping into rooms where decisions are being made and making your own voice heard. How did you develop that confidence?
Good question. So I will say it took some time, some practice. And for me, I think it was always important to not be afraid to challenge the status quo. And not be afraid to be the one that has a different opinion or a different perspective. And so as I grew in my leadership development and skills and places that I found myself in these same rooms, I became very comfortable with that, with, not being afraid to challenge that status quo and raise up concerns that may be different from other people. And so I've developed that skill just from practice and not being afraid to step into rooms and be the only one maybe standing off to the side, but be confident in that. So I've learned to master that just through practice.
Very cool. And Debbie, what about you? What did it take for you to develop that kind of confidence?
I think for me, it's being prepared. Doing the research, talking to people, understanding the subject that's at hand, and being a good listener, putting all that together. And then that way, when you walk in that room and you're a part of that team, I can't emphasize the word team enough, then you're going to be able to express those good thoughts, those good opinions. You'll have the good examples. You'll know the facts. You'll be able to do the statistics behind what needs to be done. So I think it's just being prepared and being a good listener that makes all that happen.
Absolutely. And what do you think that women specifically bring to leadership that's especially needed today?
I tend to be a little bit emotional sometimes. And so, I'm one of those women that watches Little House on the Prairie and cries,
Same.
And I don't think it's a bad thing to be a little bit emotional. I think that it shows that you have heart. And I think that those are all good qualities. And so I think having that good heart, then also it makes you, again, a good listener. And you're going to be looking at each perspective and everybody, what they all bring to the table, and hopefully put all those together to make the best project or the best decision that you can make.
And Gabrielle, what about you?
Yeah, I think we bring compassion, and then also empathy, not sympathy, because that looks very different, but empathy, the ability to be able to put ourselves in other shoes. And then that compassion and that unconditional love. I think we as ladies and women bring that to the forefront.
I couldn't agree more. And speaking of both of your leadership journeys, has there been a moment that challenged you and ultimately helped you grow during that journey? Debbie, why don't we start with you?
Everything's a challenge. And it's having good people stand next to you that helps you make all those good things happen. Everybody brings a little bit of knowledge to the table. For me, like in my nursing career, it's having all those good mentors that helped you with your bedside nursing, helped you learn critical care, helped you do all those good things so you could be the best nurse you could be. And then when it comes to city council, I've been lucky enough over my 17 years to have 4 fabulous city managers that have been able to mentor and be good role models and, show me the way how to do better, be better. So I've always appreciated that. So I have no problem if I need, some love and to be talked to and helped out. I always enjoy those conversations and being mentored. So
I'm sure that bedside manner that you learned in nursing also helped in your later career too, right?
Well, also too, like when you work critical care, you work emergency room, you work labor delivery, it's also too about being just a tad aggressive sometimes, because those are you need to be able to make sure all those things happen. So in critical care, you need to be always looking, listening, and seeing what's going on with your patients. So those are all important things. And then besides your patients, you got the families and everything else that goes with that. So it's an important aspect of what you need to do to get the job done. So.
Very cool. And Gabrielle, what about you? Is there a particular moment in your leadership journey that was challenging that ultimately helped you grow?
Yeah, I think when I first started out, kind of developing myself and, really being self-sufficient and having that confidence, there was a lot of challenges. There was a lot of setbacks. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of, I can't do it. But I feel like that is part of the journey, right? And I feel like you need those challenges and setbacks so that when you overcome those and you get to the end of the tunnel, or you get to the end of where you want to be, then you look back on those challenges and you think, man, like I needed to go through that in order for growth and in order for me to be the best person I can be. Because in life, there's always going to be trials and tribulations, no matter how far up the chain you move. And so you really have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's when the real growth happens.
And knowing what you know now, what would you say to a young woman who maybe wants to lead but don't see themselves as leaders yet?
Yeah, I would say get a mentor. I'm a huge advocate of mentors. I have some amazing mentors in my life. I'm a mentor to a lot of amazing young ladies. So I would definitely say start earlier on with getting a mentor. I think that's really important. And then lean into failure. Don't be afraid of the failure piece. I think for a long time, I looked at failure as like a bad thing. And now that I've grown into who I am today, I look at failure as a learning opportunity. What did I learn from it? So I would also kind of reiterate that as well.
I love that. For our listeners, if you heard that, lean into failure because it's a learning opportunity.
Yes,
Love
lean
that.
in.
And Debbie, what about you? Any advice you'd give a young woman trying to step into leadership but is not quite there yet?
Get involved. Even if it's volunteering, get involved. There's lots of organizations that even in your local city, you can volunteer at your library, at your local museum. You can become a Kiwanis, a Rotarian, a Screw Optimist. All these organizations, when you belong to them, they have committees that you can sit on, that you can be a part of, and you can learn from the others. So get involved and don't be afraid to spend that kind of time doing that kind of stuff because there's just too many people out there to learn from.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
And now I want to take a step back at both of your leadership journeys again. How do you define success today compared to, 10 years ago? Gabrielle, why don't we start with you?
Success today compared to 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I feel like success now it's less challenging. And the reason why I say it's less challenging, because I feel like we as a society have evolved. So there's like technology, for example, like Zoom is a major platform. So I feel like there's a lot of ample opportunity for people to be successful and to gain access to successful people, to where 10 years ago, you didn't really have that. It was very different. I also feel like with mentorship, it looks very different too, because I feel like now you have more leaders and more people participating in mentorship, and they understand the importance of it, to where 10 years ago, I don't know, I think it was a little bit different than how it is now. So I feel like now individuals have more access to services, to resources, to platforms. Like we're on a platform now. And so I feel like it's much more obtainable now. Even we can look at like the job market, how people apply for jobs, to where back in the day, they had to actually go to the location and fill out an actual application, to where now you can literally do it from your smartphone or from your computer. So I feel like we've advanced in that area, and I feel like that has contributed to overall success.
You're totally right. I remember going to the store and asking, do you have any openings for a job, and filling out the application. And now it's just Indeed or LinkedIn.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's so true. And people now are building whole businesses on their phones.
Absolutely.
What about you, Debbie? What's changed in the last 10 years in terms of defining success?
Strategic planning. I don't think people give strategic planning enough credit for evolving and making things happen. I want to say, like with the city of Ontario, if you looked at our arts district and our museums 15 years ago, they are definitely not the same. They are booming. They're wonderful. So much energy, and that's because of strategic planning. So, and I am so thankful to the people that, put those strategic plans in place, did the hard work about making us sit through and make those goals and those sections and stuff like that. So I really think there's a real good reason for everybody to be involved in a strategic plan when you want to take something from nothing and get it to something. And I believe in that process.
And since we're on the topic of looking back to 10 years ago, what advice would you give your younger self? Plan strategically?
Yeah, well, no, it's just for me, it's constant learning. It's constant preparing. It's constant, all that kind of stuff. So it's just every day is a different day. I mean, I have, like right now, I have a to-do list of about 20 things, and I just got to try to check each one off. I can't check them all off at once, but so it's making that to-do list. It's putting the right people in place to help get that to-do list done. And that's another thing that I'm grateful for city staff, always being able to help make all that wonderful projects happen. So for me, it's just about believing in others and helping us together get that direction moving forward. So
that makes sense. And Gabrielle, what about you? What advice would you give your younger self 10 years ago, or even before that?
Yeah, I would say, so I have a saying. So smart people learn from the mistakes of themselves. Wise people learn from the mistakes of others. So learning from the mistakes that other people made, I think is really important. And I would give that advice to my younger self or to anyone, because I think when you're seeing how other people may have made a mistake, then that could be a blessing for you, because you can learn from that. You don't have to be the one to actually go through it. You can learn from someone else. So I think more people should take advantage of that.
Can you say that saying one more time for our audience? Because I think I want to remember it too.
Yes. So smart people learn from the mistakes of themselves. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others. Yes.
Very cool. I'm going to get that ingrained in my brain.
Hashtag.
And now looking back again, what's one lesson that you've learned in the last, handful of years that's changed the way that you lead today?
One lesson that I've learned that changed the way that I lead today, I would say being able to overcome fear, I think is really important. I'm someone that doesn't mind taking risks, calculated risks though, but I wasn't always like that. And so now that I've pretty much mastered that, I think that is something that is just so important, to be able to not be afraid to look fear straight in the eye, and just go for it, because you're never going to know until you do it. And as I've said before, even if it doesn't work and it's a mistake and you may view that as not being successful, but there's a learning component on the other side of it. And then if you don't do it, then you don't gain anything. But at least if you do it, you're either going to win or you're going to learn from it. And either way, that's a win.
You're either going to win or you learn. So I get it. And Debbie, what about you? What's one lesson that you've learned, or more than one, the last few years that's changed the way that you lead today?
Don't give up and don't quit. It took 2 times for me when I ran for school board before I won. And it took 4 times to run before I was able to be a council person. So, and those were all hard work when you're running for office like that all the time. The literature, the money, the meeting, talking, listening to people. So whatever that goal is that you have in mind, please never give up, don't quit, keep trying. And that's really what's driven me to this day. And it's sort of weird too, though, but, everybody's got I've sort of like put in front of me, okay, I want to do this goal, and then I put it in front of me, and then I want to do another goal, and then I put it in front of me. And so I was just like, and then it's weird too how this has worked out for me in a way. Like my address starts with 303. Okay. So then City Hall's address starts with 303. So I'm looking, okay, so what else in my future starts with 303? So it's sort of an interesting little thing I have, but I just don't never give up.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Those are some angel numbers too, if you just keep adding them on.
Right. Might be some lotto numbers.
Yeah, and I know where you live now too, so
There's a lot of 303s out there.
And now I want to give a shout out to some of the, people who shaped your journey in leadership today. So who were some of the women who helped you in your journey, and why is community so important to you today? Debbie, why don't we start with you?
I there's been a few women, but there's been more men. And I think what happens with women is that, because I know that I've been burned a few times by some women that I've given my heart, my soul, my money, my time to, and I stood next to them when other people wouldn't stand next to them, and then they finally got that career goal, and then they just abandon you. So, so that's been a real thing, but there's been some men in my life that, the advice, the concern, the strategies. So I want to say it's a combination of both. And I really you just need to be focusing on, again, your preparation, your goal, your moving forward, and making sure that, sounds a little selfish, but that sometimes you just have to be in order to get to be where you want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gabrielle, what about you? Who are some people that shaped your journey along the way?
Yeah.
And why was that so important to you?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say my mom, definitely. So shout out to my mom, Donna, who's watching this. My sister, Janine, also, I'm the youngest of 5. And so my sister was very influential in my life, always have. My mom has been one of my number one cheerleaders. So those two are definitely some influential women. And I also have a mentor, as I've said before. Shout out to Dr. Janelle Pitt. So a lot of those individuals that I've named are very close to me, and I've been able to pick up wisdom from each of them. So I think that has been really important, and I've been able to add that to my tool belt. And then on top of that, now I've been able to give back and plant seeds into other mentees that I've been able to help support. And community is super important for me. I'm from a lower socioeconomic environment in Fresno, California, up north. And so I'm always the one that is, bringing or talking about community and making sure that individuals and particularly lower income communities have opportunities as anyone else. And so I think that also is what shaped me and molded me into who I am.
That makes sense. And digging in a little bit deeper there with your journey, what kept you moving forward when things got so difficult?
Yeah, I would say my faith. I'm really driven in my faith. I'm someone that prays. I'm someone that meditates as well. And I'm someone that loves positive affirmations. So every morning I read a positive affirmation to myself before I start my day. And so that's what really keeps me going. And I try not to question when things happen that I don't want to happen the way that I want it to. Because in the back of my mind, I think, well, it must have been a reason as to why it's happening. So I try not to question those type of situations, but definitely am driven by my faith.
That makes sense. There's this great quote from Oprah that she says quite often, which is, nothing is happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yes.
Everything is happening for you.
Absolutely.
Which makes sense. And what about you, Debbie? You mentioned a couple of different times that you ran, never giving up, but what were some of the things that kept you moving forward when things got difficult?
I think one of my big things is I'm a fixer. I like fixing things. I like making things better. And so that's and then with Ontario, when I first moved there, I needed to fix my home and fix a bunch of stuff. And so it's about how I can make things better. I really appreciate seeing all those great things happen, like just what's happening with our arts district and our museum and all the good things that are happening there. And as a registered nurse too, you're always fixing and making things better. And sometimes when you can't fix things, it's frustrating, but you keep trying to do that. So that's just about, I think, where my life has been, is I've just always been a fixer. So.
And speaking of fixing things, what's something that you wish more women and just people in the community understood when it comes to stepping into their purpose?
I guess a big word would be collegiality. We have to try to do stuff together, be together, be good to each other. No, don't do the backstabbing. Right. Don't do the other thing too. Like within nursing, sometimes, the phrases we eat are young. We got to knock that off, So it's just, let's think of how we can always be better, move together, and make those people coming up in our roles as good, if not better than what we were. So that would be my hope.
Makes sense. And Gabrielle, what about you? What's something that you wish more women and just people in the community understood when it comes to stepping into your purpose?
Yeah, I would say, do not think that it's going to be an instant gratification, like that it's going to happen overnight. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some hard work. So as long as you have the consistency, you have the discipline, and you have the structure, you'll get there. But I feel like sometimes individuals think that it's just going to happen like that. Like, oh, what do you mean? I went 2 times to 2 seminars. Like I should be able to.
I should be an expert by now.
Right, I should be an expert. It's like, no, you got to keep putting the work into it. Just keep going, keep going. And I also agree along the lines of, don't be the mean girl, right? Because we've all been to situations or events that individuals have hosted, and it's designed to be, empowering and motivating. And then sometimes you get the mean girls. So it's like, well, how is this empowering and motivating? So say what you're going to do and actually do it would also be my other piece.
And that actually taps into what Debbie mentioned earlier about, yes, there's been some women that help, but there's also women that hasn't helped. So how do you manage the mean girls? Debbie, why don't we start with you, because I know that you've encountered some of them. How do you manage them along the way?
I guess I don't. I don't. So I look for the next hope. I look for the next betterment. I look for the next person that I can count on and can count on me and count on them and help each other be better together. That's where I would take that. So, and I love mentoring people. I love it when through the website, we'll get calls from like colleges and stuff that I want to talk to. I'm lucky that I'm a registered nurse because they're doing public health or they're doing something. And so then we'll be able to sit down and they'll understand what's going on in the organization and how cities do or don't do public health. And maybe that's a county function or maybe that's a state function instead. So I love getting the students in. I love talking to them. I love guiding them. I love going to students in high school and doing government classes. I just think that that's the best thing, to make them understand what local government does, what county government does, what state government does, just making them understand the different layers.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Gabrielle, what about you? Have you managed the mean girls along the way? Do you do the same thing, just keep moving?
Yeah, a couple things I do. I first try to look at it as a teachable moment for them. And so what I have done in the past is I've had conversations with individuals that do come off as like the mean girl. And sometimes it's like they take the feedback and they're like, oh my God, like I didn't realize I was doing that, or no one ever taught me, no one ever told me, because a lot of it is learned behavior. And so if you were raised in a household where you've seen that and that's what you got, then maybe in your mind, then that's what you're supposed to do. So sometimes I'll take that approach depending on the situation. And for the most part, though, I don't really have tolerance to be in circles with people that operate that way. It just doesn't vibe with me. It doesn't sit well with my morals and values. So I like to align myself with more positive, influential individuals that are going to give back, that are going to plant seeds, and that are going to do it without expecting anything in return.
I couldn't agree more. And I know that you both have talked about mentorship. So for our listeners today, how can they find you? Where can they reach you? You know, I'm sure they want to learn more about your journeys. Where can they find you online right now?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Jinx.
There you go. Well, I'm an easy. If you want to go dperata@verizon.net, that's my email. And if you forget that, you can go to the City of Ontario website and look us up under council people. And you can directly email me there. I'm very good at responding. I don't let things lay for more than 24 hours. So I'd love to be helpful. And if you want to talk more than just women about what's going on in the state, in the different legislation that's being passed, I'd be happy to help you understand all that too. So please, I would love talking to people about stuff like that.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Gabrielle, what about you? How can we find you?
Yeah. And then for me, you can find me on Instagram. Educate, Empower, Lead is my Instagram page. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on both those platforms. So Gabrielle Conrow, you can find me on LinkedIn, and, you can drop me a message, or, you can also email me, Gabrielle@educateempowerlead.com. And so I respond that way as well.
Great. And then one last question. If there's one message that you want every woman listening today to walk away with from this conversation, what would it be?
Number one would be prepare. Always be prepared. Do your best at making sure you know what you should know and what you can know, and making that forward. Because if you do that, you're going to be able to move forward much better. Don't ever give up. But my one thing would be prepared.
Gabrielle, what about you?
I would say I would leave listeners with being able to have the skill set of being disciplined, because you're not always going to be motivated. There's going to be days and times where you're not motivated. You don't have the passion. You're tired. You don't want to do it. You want to give up. But when you have the discipline, your mind and body is already disciplined to do what you're supposed to do, because you're leaning in on that. So I would say really develop that skill of being disciplined, so the days when you're not motivated, you can still keep going.
That makes sense. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us in this conversation today. I think what I'm taking away from this talk is, even though women have such unique experiences, there's something so deeply universal in the way that we all move and grow when we're leading with intentionality. And that's what I see in both of your journeys. So thank you for sharing with us today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
And for our listeners, if this conversation resonated or hit home for you, we encourage you to continue talking to your peers, like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for the next episode.